Hey, live streamers.
All right, you're up.
Bipping and bopping our way into the noon hour. Welcome in. Tim Hill's helping to fill in for Pearson Fowler, Preston Thorne, Patrick Perrette alongside. Hope your Wednesday noon hour is looking good out there. From the Gamecock perspective, understand if maybe you're not in your best spirits, but also maybe you're taking the positive out of yesterday's 9-3 loss against Alabama at the SEC tournament, and you've seen it many times before where the Gamecock baseball team would not have success over in Hoover where they're 29-50 all time, and then go on to NCAA tournament success. I'm interested in hearing exactly what you're thinking right now. 803-404-6100, number in the program. You can call or text. Preston, what did you make of the 9-3 Alabama win over Carolina yesterday in Hoover? I'm picking up a little sarcasm there. Anybody else picking that up?
I think they should be embarrassed. You're the number, 3 team in the tournament, top 10 team in the country. You can't lay an egg like this. It's shameful.
Are we starting? Is the noon hour sponsored by sarcasm today? Is that what we're doing? Because I sent these guys a pre-show text, and that was a question I asked. Was it embarrassing? Should Gamecock fans be embarrassed, basically? Because several of you were, at least according to texts on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, 803-404-6100. 8-0 was the score to start, and 5 wild pitches was the SEC tournament record from C.J. Watt. I think that's why it got the emotional response it did, gentlemen, because you lose 9-3 in the SEC tournament. You said what? What's the score right now, Preston? 9-1? Who's up on Mississippi State? Okay, Florida. Not one of the best teams in the country like they were supposed to be, and looking like it right now, though, over Mississippi State. We talked about it yesterday. It's or on Monday, I guess. And we talked about it yesterday morning going into yesterday's game. I don't know how much you guys got into it with Jay yesterday afternoon, but it's just a unique deal, the SEC baseball tournament, because of how you have to set up your team and your pitching rotation in baseball with the NCAA tournament looming. And this is the only thing I can think of. I forget where the Clemson series is right now, numbers-wise. Clemson might have the overall lead historically, but if they do, it's not by much. And Ray Tanner always had the edge over Jack Leggett. And most importantly, the Gamecock baseball team won in the College World Series a couple of different times in a row against Clemson when it mattered the most on the big stage. So I was just trying to go back historically and think, where has Carolina baseball fallen short historically? And it doesn't exist for the most part. In the SEC, national championships, College World Series appearances in multiple decades. But in Hoover, Alabama at the SEC tournament, South Carolina is 29-50 all time. 21 games under 500. I don't think there's any other series out there that can compare to that. I'll go look up the Clemson series just to double check on that. But it's just odd. Scott hits us up, 803-404-6100. Best loss of the season. I didn't want them to win yesterday. I wanted them to follow the Ray Tanner template, do nothing at the SEC tournament, rest your players, keep your pitching rotation together on schedule, and get ready for the NCAA. And if you didn't hear some of Mark Kingston's comments, some of Wes Clark's comments, we'll play a couple here for you. I felt like I could almost hear it in Mark Kingston's voice talking about how they're going to use the time from now until a week from Friday, basically 9 days off, because it sounded to me like he was almost relieved and looking forward to having this time off, resting his guys, getting his guys healthy. Preston, you've been in seasons towards the stretch and been on beat-up teams before, but never quite like this where you get a 9-day break, I don't think, before the NCAA tournament starts, because there was an NCAA tournament for the football team. Maybe you get the bowl break, and that's a welcome deal, or an off week in football might be a decent analogy. But what do you make now of Gamecock baseball? Maybe the non-sarcastic response with this break coming up. So let's focus on the embarrassing part. When I say embarrassing, what is embarrassing? What does your mind go to? Is there a specific loss in your career, a specific performance in your career, Preston, back in the day with the Gamecock football team that pops in immediately? Because when I do it, I think of asking Lou Holtz after Nick Saban and LSU came in 2004, I believe it was, to Williams-Brice Stadium. I was a camera guy, run out to the middle of the field. They had the little meeting, and you can hear Lou Holtz saying, "That was embarrassing," to Nick Saban. Like that was his comment, shaking the hands. So I asked him afterwards why he said that, and I think it was more the effort and lack of execution on his team's part, as opposed to the other team being really good. That was the embarrassing part for him. How do you see embarrassing in sports? Danny says embarrassing, aka the Gamecock football team, most of last season. I would say when you're uncompetitive, it can become embarrassing, and there were a couple of those games. LSU, Texas A&M popped in my head. What about you, Patrick? From the fan perspective, when do you feel like you're embarrassed to be a fan, especially knowing you come at it from the Washington pro sports team's standpoint for the most part?
Well, baseball's, I feel like, different because, I mean, Preston mentioned effort, and like that is what's embarrassing when you're just getting run over by Texas A&M for 4 quarters straight, and it's just there's nothing you can do. They're just imposing your will. That's embarrassing because you're clearly just overmatched. In basketball, if you're just turning the ball over, not running out fast breaks, and you're getting dunked on all day long, like that's embarrassing. In baseball, though, I feel like embarrassing, like 5 wild pitches is personally embarrassing, I think. But, I mean, not as a team. I mean, it's just one guy doing that. I think what's embarrassing in baseball is if you just see over the course of a full game, maybe like guys running into each other in the outfield, or you try to throw somebody out and you throw it over the first baseman's head, then you run it out, and then you try to throw somebody out at third and throw it over his head, and just absolute just chaos in the infield, or maybe jogging out a play to first base. But I don't think it's like weird. You don't see the effort plays that often in baseball when you're not like on the base paths or running a ball down in the outfield or something like that. So baseball, it's almost like if you're not just completely making errors on every play, I'm not really going to be embarrassed.
It is different in baseball, no doubt. And sometimes the more effort you put in, the more likely you are to have embarrassing plays. If you're swinging too hard and you're looking fastball and they throw you a curveball, you could have an embarrassing swing. If both outfielders are running at it increasingly hard and not listening to the other one, you run into each other. Well, that's kind of embarrassing too. Not quite to the level of golf where it's almost automatic. If you're trying too hard, you're going to screw it all. But baseball is somewhere in between the typical football or basketball, I feel like, where you really have to go full effort all the time. And then in golf, where you really have to be under control. And the pitching one is the odd thing, right? Because I hear what you're saying, like wild pitches, you never want that. You never want walks in college baseball at a high level, and that's certainly where Carolina is. And then to see 5 wild pitches like that, it would only be embarrassing to me if it just never happens at all at the highest levels. But to have seen on the highest of levels, a guy like Mark Wohlers, the old closer for the Atlanta Braves, just couldn't throw it to the catcher. Like, it just lost his control completely at the end of his career. To see position players over at second base like Steve Sachs or Chuck Knobloch, just all of a sudden they can't figure out how to throw the ball from second base to first base or field ground balls or whatever it may be. There are instances of this. So that's where it doesn't reach the level of embarrassing for Gamecock baseball from my perspective. And I think as fans sometimes it's easier to go over that line and probably invest too much or feel like that, especially if you have high expectations. And that's where I get confused with the Gamecock baseball fan base, because of what we've seen from Gamecock baseball in the past at the SEC tournament, what we talked about going in. Obviously, Mark Kingston wasn't going with his best pitcher to start game number 1 and win at all costs, because you have to kind of deal, because that's just not reality. It's not where Carolina is with the NCAA tournament looming, having done enough to get in there, being named one of the 20 finalists of the 16 NCAA regional host sites. They weren't there. Now, they've been there before, but they weren't there this time, and that's another reason why I think embarrassing is just too much. We'll continue to talk about it, though, and reveal some personal embarrassments if we get really brave here on the show. Would love to hear from you about the embarrassing part of that. Monty just hit us up, Cool Care Heating and Air text line. As a lifelong Gamecock fan, I'm never embarrassed by a loss. However, I'm extremely embarrassed by a lack of effort. And then so you got to follow that up then, Monty. Is that how you felt yesterday? Because Braylon Wimmer hit a 2-run shot. Wes Clark smashed one over a couple of different fences. It looked like they're out in left field for a home run. Clearly, there was no lack of effort there. So that's why I think it's an interesting place to review what happened yesterday. And now Gamecock baseball gets quite the break before the NCAA regionals, to where I think they will ultimately be judged this season. Good season, bad season. Pass, fail. You get through the regional, you pass. You don't. And then I think it's a tough pill for a lot of Gamecock fans to swallow. But we'll continue to discuss, like I mentioned, a lot of stuff going on nationally as well. I was just reading this article about Donald Trump being involved in a Patriots political thing back in 2010 with the United States Senator and Arlen Specter, and that ESPN has going. That's quite the deal. I'm sure, Patrick, you can update us on some more NFL drama like you're always following there. Got anything specifically today, sir?
No, it's just the 2 big stories continue to be Julio Jones and Aaron Rodgers, and all of Aaron Rodgers' wide receivers are also holding out of OTAs alongside him. So just a lot of internal beef there.
Got a couple of quarterbacks teeing it up with some golfers that are at the top of the game as well. One of those made-for-TV events. We'll give you the details on that, too. Just getting warmed up here. I'm Tim Hill filling in for Pearson Fowler, Preston Thorne, and Patrick Perrette today. Hold it down for the extra point here on 107.5 The Game.
On 107.5 The Game. The demand for your used car is at an all-time high, and it's never been worth more. Crooked Chevrolet used car, even if you don't buy ours. And to prove it, we're willing to beat any written offer by $500. That's right, we'll beat any written offer by $500.
Preston didn't wear his makeup today. Not gonna get in on a live stream.
I guess not. He's on his phone right now.
Oh, I might be trying to figure it out. Yo, DC, ho, hi. Steven, only because he heated them bats in the sun.
Do you this Kingston audio, is it? I see what you guys played this morning.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Yeah, I got him.
So 1 is on the regional. Is that right? Getting rested for the regional. And 2 is on the plan.
Yeah, and then the other 3 are Wes Clark.
Cool. Let's come back with number 2, please. Straight in.
Okay.
Thank you.
In short, you have the power to control your own race. And the better you drive, the better your rate. Plus, it's fast and easy. The app walks you through each step so you understand what you're getting.
How's this schedule been working with you?
It's car insurance.
It's okay.
Not ideal, huh?
Yeah, it's just not long enough on either end of the show to sleep.
Right. Thanks for doing it, man.
But it's okay. I mean, it's not like
South Carolina Highway Patrol. I've got a question for drivers.
it's like 4 or 5 hours and then 2 or 3 after, and it's fine.
Can you imagine what it's like to be on a motorcycle that is hit by a car or truck? Many motorcycles, injuries, and fatalities can be prevented if drivers can do that one simple thing. Just look. Share the road, save a life. A Target Zero message from the South Carolina Department of Public Safety. If you're hearing this ad, then you're experiencing the power of radio. One of the most effective and affordable ways to market your business. Have you been considering digital marketing? We can help.
Are there shows on Monday?
Nope.
From SEO, behavioral targeting to social media management, native ads, and website development, we'll get you heard, seen, and discovered. Visit 1075thegame.com and click on the Advertise with Us link. If your child has experienced a loss of learning due to virtual or hybrid learning, come to Camden Military Academy for full face-to-face instruction this summer. Your son can get academic enrichment and experience fun summer camp activities. Earn high school credit or auto class. And after class, it's time for fun like paintball, swimming, and much more. Camden Military Academy's summer program is July 11th to the 30th.
Only because he heated the bats in the sun. That's why Ray Tanner owned Jack Leg.
You should log on to CamdenMilitaryAcademy.com.
Everybody hitting up the YouTube live stream right now. Nice.
That's what we need. Oh, what are our numbers at?
Yeah, Hope, what do you got? All right, Travis, good to hear you back, man. Good to see you. Hope you're feeling better, man. Haven't seen you in the last couple of mornings. Was hoping you'd bounce back.
7:54. Man, we've been in that 750 range for a little while. All right, we're back.
Glad to see you joining the show at least, Travis. Hang in there, man.
Welcome back to the Extra Point. The Ultimate Sports Lounge on 1075 The Game. Went with our plan, which I think is a sound plan. We weren't going to move up our weekend rotation on
2 days rest. And we weren't going to play our position players and have them have setbacks. And so you have to live with the results of your plan. And disappointed we didn't pitch better, especially early in the game. But, you know, CJ has done a good job for us, and John has done a good job for us. So when it doesn't go your way, you need to continue to have your players' backs. Teammates need to have each other's backs. And you just focus on the next opportunity you have. And the next opportunity we have, 5-year-old tournament, which is very few of the teams in the country will have that opportunity. So we'll be ready to go.
That's Carolina baseball coach Mark Kingston after yesterday's 9-3 loss, eliminated the Gamecocks, one and done at the SEC tournament, dropping USC's all-time record at the SEC tourney to 29-50. Again, 9-3 yesterday's final score. Neil hits us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, and he is comfortable with what he heard there, and I think what he's seen from Gamecock baseball. He says, it looks to me like Coach Kingston is focusing on the important things, just like his approach going into the last Clemson game, set up a series sweep the following weekend, even though they lost the meaningless midweek game against the Tigers. Kingston knows his team and will have them ready to play. I heard what what you're saying and what you're saying that came from Tim Frisbee about flipping the switch. And you do have to be careful about that because that's where we see it in pro sports the most, I think, Preston, where maybe at the end of an NFL season, a team's got their playoff spot locked up and they'll sit guys in the last game or two. I think we see it probably the most in basketball at the end of an NBA season, especially a long NBA season, trying to rest guys, and then sometimes they get out of rhythm. But especially this baseball team, it's been kind of so hot and cold at times. To me, it's hard to follow a logical path or project that because of what this team has been. Really hot at times, cold at times, and then kind of bouncing back and forth. What do you think, Preston?
Yeah, I think that's 100% accurate. What we do know about this team is that they will respond to challenges, that they're not going to fold when they face a loss in a series or some tough time. So I do think Coach Kingston is confident that the team will be ready to play. However, when they're going into these regionals and things of that nature, they're not going to have the opportunities to bounce back. If they make some of those mistakes that they made earlier in the season, those things could send them home packing for real. And I don't know if you ever want to get your team accustomed to making those types of mistakes.
Well, no doubt about that. But I have seen, I think it was the last time Carolina hosted maybe, that they ended up coming through the losers bracket of the regional in the Chad Holbrook era. So in a double elimination regional, you get one chance to bounce back, basically. And then that eliminates all margin from error, I should say. BB from Sumter hits us up, says being comfortable with losing should never be a message or signal to your team.
That's tough. I mean, that's tough. I mean, yes, that's probably the traditional way to think about these things. But at the same time, we're looking at the bigger picture with a program that has bigger aspirations. That means sometimes you have to take some losses in order to make a bigger win. And this might be part of that aspiration. Some of those other teams might really be going for the whole deal at the SEC tournament, but our fan base, we've all had bigger expectations. And so I think Coach Kingston recognizes that and he's putting a plan in place for that.
Aren't there such thing as good losses too, though? Like from a coaching standpoint, like there are times where a coach will not necessarily not want to lose, but he can go in the locker room and rip his team a new one and say, this is not how you play. You're going to get bounced immediately if you show up like this in the actual NCAA tournament. But the whole time he knows, okay, we really didn't throw our best team out there. But it's just like, it's a good coaching point. We see it sometimes in other sports too. If you're a one-loss NFL team and you're just getting comfortable and grinding through and it's week 16 and you drop one to a team you should have beaten by 2 touchdowns, it might be good. You gotta get humbled every now and again.
Kaiser hits us up, says, we also know this team's capable of putting together a 15-game winning streak. Rest up, boys. It's time to go. Plenty more of you weighing in at 803-404-6100. Chaz says, I think it's truly difficult to show a lack of effort in baseball. So this goes back to talking about what's really embarrassing. And I think we all agree that when you see a lack of effort out there, that's when it goes from frustrating to embarrassing. Chaz continues, says, the game of baseball is strongly based on individual statistics, and a lack of effort would show that a player just truly didn't care about playing in the future himself or improving his current statistics. To add to that, although baseball is a team game, it's centered around individual accomplishments and skills. I think maybe meaning more of those individual matchups. It's pitcher versus hitter. There's nowhere to hide. I would say you can see some embarrassing efforts as a hitter just when you swing at pitches that aren't even close, or when you continually make the same mistakes as a team for an entire game. You keep getting under pitches and having weak pop-ups and not changing your approach at all. To me, that can become embarrassing to a certain degree. But when you're at the level that Carolina is, I think it's usually almost always was I going to say. Let's just go with almost always against some type of big-time major league prospect like Jack Leiter or someone else, Kumar Rocker, those guys at the top of the league. I just went with the Vandy examples because they're at the top. Alex has a solid text in here, too, talking about the difference between embarrassing in sports and just being frustrated or disappointed. He says, I played baseball my entire childhood into my adult life. I've never been embarrassed by my team other than twice, Alex says. Number 1, state championship as a junior in high school. Had an amazing game, but found out later our seniors went out and partied the night before. And I guess he's saying the game was supposed to get rained out the next night, so they had banked on the weather forecast. It looked like the seniors did.
That sounds like a solid teenage decision-making process. I can understand it.
And number 2, Alex says, played a team called the Orlando Titans in travel ball back in the day. They're starting 9, all drafted or on full scholarship to major D1 programs. Alex, I would say you got to check that thing because a full scholarship to a major D1 baseball program, very, very rare. He said also bench players were all playing college ball on scholarship. I played center field against them, Alex said. Ran back to the fence more than 20 times in a 7-inning game, all home runs. I had our lone hit, and I bunted for a base hit leading off in the first. That game was embarrassing.
Is it embarrassing when you know you're going to get killed, though?
Well, if you're a program that has plenty of pride, yeah, and you shouldn't be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
But
think
if
that's
Vanderbilt loses 56-7 to Alabama, I mean, it's embarrassing.
No, I don't think
how
so.
it is.
But if you're South Carolina baseball and you ever get beat like that, I think it is. But and not just for that singular game, but I think the embarrassment comes from allowing the program to get to that point, right? And even as a fan, where I think you feel like you're invested, and one of the reasons players choose to come to play for the University of South Carolina is because of the fan support. And then I think maybe fans feel some of that is on them in some weird kind of counterintuitive way, maybe, or maybe that's just a logical way to look at it. I don't know, but I think there's part of that involved. More texts rolling in at 803-404-6100. Anonymous texter says, let me see. Kingston embarrassed his players and fans. He humiliated a young pitcher by leaving him out there to repeatedly fail. I don't.
2 innings.
That's an interesting take. I see how you could see that. Some people might argue that he was letting him work it out, for himself. Depends on where you fall on that market. I would venture to say that this texter probably is not a Mark Kingston fan from the jump, so that's
Right.
probably influencing his behavior, how he sees this thing. But there is an argument to be made for that.
But I don't think it's a logical argument, Preston.
Gotcha.
You're giving him way too much credit. Did you see the first 2 innings?
Right.
First 2 innings, 0-0. And the last couple of starts from CJ Wines, pretty good. And there's a fine line as a coach between being confident in your player and being hypercritical and way too wound up, and any mistake that you made, then you're done, right? That's the complaint about Frank Martin, right? Oh, as soon as the guy makes a mistake, he yanks him out of there. Well, now the complaint on the other side is you have too much confidence in a guy. I don't think this texter understands what a starting pitcher is in the SEC tournament. If you're going to have any chance to win the SEC tournament, your starting pitcher, you don't yank him after a walk in the 3rd inning when it's a scoreless game. After the game, Mark Kingston talked about the game plan going in was for Wines and John Gilreath to give them 4 innings. That was the plan. That's what he felt his team needed to set it up for the best success for the entire tournament. They didn't go there just trying to hang out and head on back and rest up. They went there with the intent to win the thing, but they weren't going to sacrifice future success for it. And so when Wines continually showed that he lost his control when it got to the point where it was obvious that you had to bring in the next guy, well, John Gilreath comes in, and then he doesn't back it up too. So this is what do they call that in on a plane where you have multiple things go wrong, and that always leads to the accident. It's never just one. I forget what it's called. I'll look it up here in a second. But that's what I saw. It wasn't just your starting guy throwing wild pitches and setting an SEC tournament record in part doing that. Then it was the guy who came on and tried to relieve him, couldn't get out of a jam, gives up a 3-run shot, and before you know it, it's 8-0. And I get that ticks people off, but to cross the line and talk about embarrassing players and fans, I mean, I guess if Carolina was 50-29 at the SEC tournament and it was a really important deal, this is, I think, the least important conference tournament there is. Can you guys name another one? I mean, basketball, you get the automatic spot, right?
Oh, I was going to say the ACC baseball tournament.
Shot. Man, you think way too much like Bill, Patrick. Unbelievable.
I didn't know we were just talking about the SEC, but yes.
I'm just saying it's a weird thing going in. We'll continue to discuss. Love to hear your thoughts on the text line, no matter if I agree with them or not. It makes the show better for sure. 803-404-6100 is the number. It's the Extra Point. I'm Tim Hill, helping to fill in for Pearson Fowler, Preston Thorne, and Patrick Perret alongside here on 107.5 The Game.
More of the Extra Point coming up next on 107.5 The Game.
Hi.
For her, I would put him at the top of the list because he took our problem and resolved.
Spell it backwards or forwards, it's the right way to clean.
I'm not going very far.
It's too uncomfortable.
I'm in a hurry. Sometimes I just forget.
There's no such thing as a good excuse for not buckling up. You're not only putting yourself at risk of injury or death, it could also cost you lots of money. Cops are writing tickets.
You got me now?
There we go. Yep.
I was like, break? We're in the break. What are you talking about, break?
Pull the plug.
Yeah. I just had to push the button.
Is that all it is? I didn't know if it was something you plugged in or just press the button.
Yeah, the cam mic button. I go into the mic, switch the input. Let's go Wes Clark on the regional.
Number 5.
It's the last one, I think, right?
Yeah, got it.
Offers valid 5/28 through 5/31. Offer valid through 5/31. Some exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
Don't put another penny in your own car.
I guess this Spygate story is brand new. I did not see that until I just
got about halfway through before I had to start the show.
That is. Whenever I see Seth Wickersham, I know that it's going to be an hour plus of reading. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but everything he writes is just so long. Right in with Clark.
Sorry?
Right in with Clark.
Yeah.
We don't get too wrapped up into it. If you tell us to go play somewhere, we'll go play somewhere and we'll bring it. Obviously we'd like to play at home, but at the end of the day, we're playing the same game, same field, same team, and we'll be good. We're ready to play wherever we have to go. We don't really buy into it. People can say what they want, they can write what they want, but at the end of the day, we're playing a different team no matter what, and that's what we're ready for.
Carolina slugger Wes Clark hit his nation-leading 22nd home run yesterday in the 9-3 loss to Alabama. Also adding that yesterday's loss will mean nothing when the team is out in Omaha, so not short on confidence, as you might expect from a guy who's hit 22 home runs this year. Anonymous texter hits us up. Actually, this might be Trevor. This team needs a chance to rest up, he says. Let Khalil's bruises heal, most hit by pitch. He has a much different approach than another anonymous texter who just is on a complete anti-George Khalil tack there and going out of mostly hitting and stuff and saying that I think he's the best shortstop. Every team that played yesterday had a better shortstop. I just don't think you're giving him enough credit for what he has done for Carolina defensively. That's all I'm saying. And that's
0 for 2 on spelling Khalil as well.
Okay. I was giving him the benefit of the doubt there, letting it go with that. Darren's got an interesting take. He says, this is completely apples to oranges comparison, but I can see Kingston's scheme playing out like my daughter's travel ball team. You keep your best pitchers fresh for bracket play, use your other pitchers for pool play. Of course, you always play to win with whoever you put out there, but you got to keep long-term planning in mind. Nearsighted coaching decisions will come back and bite you down the road. I hate losing, but I know the greater goal still lies ahead. It is an apples and oranges comparison. Travel ball youth, whether it's girls or boys, versus big-time SEC baseball, but that last part I think is right on. And I think maybe it's because it's so unique that it's difficult for fans to either stomach, agree with, or watch. Because I remember all of this. Another texter just hits us up, says they think it might have been Tommy Moody pointed out yesterday in 2010 and 11. Carolina won the national championship. They also lost the first few games in the SEC tournament. Thought that was an interesting fact. It's just what it's always been with Carolina baseball. It's one of those weird things I feel like that it's maybe it's not difficult to explain, but it is something that kind of goes against our fiber as sports fans, wouldn't you say, Preston, to try to acknowledge that there might be something more important on the horizon than the game we're watching right in front of us.
Yeah, and I think they just put the artificial emphasis on this tournament. And I think maybe we have to make the bigger question is, what's the point of the tournament? If it doesn't matter, and I haven't heard it say that it really matters for anybody, then maybe we just need to attack this idea of why are we even going to play these games, or should we be playing some more meaningful games?
Well, I think when it comes to this level, we got to understand, I think that's one of the reasons we saw college basketball tournaments in this past year, where it was a college basketball season unlike any other. But with all the revenue involved, they were going to play those games.
Okay.
They're going to play them.
Is there that much money in the SEC baseball tournament?
No. I'm saying that's why I went to the basketball tournament. But okay, so yeah. I don't know how many corporate dollars were involved in sponsorships and the whole thing. The SEC network is there broadcasting all these games. They certainly have inventory to run and have a deal in place and an expectation. And let's not be naive. All of that is involved here. Krim's got an interesting idea texting in. I honestly would rather see SEC East champ versus SEC West champ in a 3-game series.
Okay.
How about that?
Now, okay. Now that's creative. That makes every game count. And now we have a series where we're crowning a true champion. I like this.
And what if we did it too? Couldn't you do it 1 through 7? I've seen that idea. Isn't that the idea, or wasn't that the deal with the end of some of these football seasons? The final game in the Big Ten, at least it was supposed to be, right? If you finish 5th in one division, you play the team that finished 5th in the other division, and that's how you got an extra game. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Would it be enough still to make people care?
I think you would care more about it from that standpoint than you would how it is now. Don't you think?
Yeah, I do, because then you would be crowning a real true champion. We went through the gauntlet of the regular season, and now we're going to face you in this playoff type format. And we're going to, when there's two teams against each other, I think both teams will be more apt to go out there and try and win, as opposed to sort of meandering their way through field play. But head to head, I think teams would more likely approach that to try and win.
And let's take this a step further, right? Because this year it would have been Tennessee against Arkansas. And they just played each other the second to last series of the season in Tennessee, packed house. Arkansas wins the last game by 1 run. Now you get a rematch? You telling me Tennessee fans wouldn't be all for that? Or Arkansas fans? And you just play it at the other place. You know, if you played, they played at Tennessee earlier in the season, so now you play it over at Arkansas. Or maybe you play it in the neutral site. I would prefer to see it on a home venue, so you get the home field advantage. And then I think the odds of Tennessee and Arkansas making it the College World Series this year are pretty high. What if you then meet later on in the College World Series? That's the fun part about college basketball a lot of times in these championship games and in their conference tournaments, is that sometimes you see the rematch later, or you've already seen the regular season game. Sometimes it's the third meeting. To me, that familiarity is what we all kind of can identify with a lot in sports, and it's why we maybe don't enjoy the free agency or the transfers as much as we do the one and done in college basketball. I'd love to see something like that. That's a good and
I like
excellent
single
idea.
elimination, just in general. I think that's why the NCAA tournament in basketball is so great, because in one game, anything can happen. I would like if it was this year, if Tennessee played Arkansas and Mississippi State played Vanderbilt, and then the winners played each other, something like that, 2 games, single elimination, I would love that. I just think it means a lot more in single elimination. The SEC, the championship of this tournament is a single elimination game, right?
I believe that's how it goes down.
Yeah.
Yep.
So why can't you do it for every series?
It's a good question, but I think it goes back to then how many games are you getting? How many games you putting on TV? That's all. I think that's all.
Too
part
many
of it.
now. How many? What are the? I mean, I would love to see the ratings for the 10:30 a.m., 9:30 a.m. local starts.
I bet they're not that much different than the afternoon games. I think the fan bases watch. Other than that, probably not a lot of extra interest. Troy hits us up. Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Tournaments matter only for teams on the bubble or teams that can only get in by winning it. And that goes along with another text that came in from an anonymous texter. The difference in this year compared to previous year's SEC tournaments for Carolina is the need for wins in order to host a regional. And that's where, I mean, I think most of us said it going in, that don't know if outside of winning it or maybe going to the finals that you're going to make a case to a committee that you deserve to host after losing 4 of your last 5 regular season series and losing that one, especially to Tennessee at home, when I think you did have a chance. If you won that last game of the regular season, you put yourself in position at 17-13, but at 16-14, I guess I understand it. I think you're just holding out hope for a run. That didn't end up happening, unfortunately, for the Gamecocks for sure. And then some of you internalize that as embarrassing. I disagree. What we could all agree on is hearing stories about embarrassing moments is always fun for those not having to relive those things. Preston, you up for an embarrassing story when we come back?
Sure. I mean, I've lived life. I've got a couple of them.
I do as well. What about you, Patrick? You willing to put one out there?
For sports stories?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
Okay.
I'll rack my memory.
All right. We'll do it. Maybe we'll do it. I'm going to do it. Preston's going to do it. We'll really up the peer pressure on Patrick. Doesn't even have to be maybe the best embarrassing story you have is not a sports story. We'll see if Patrick can be up to the task. You're listening to The Extra Point here on 107.5 The Game.
More of The Extra Point coming up next. 107.5 The Game.
As the official team doctors for the Clemson Tigers and U of SC game.
Find out if joint pain is affecting your quality of life by taking a free health assessment. Don't let hip or knee pain hold you back. Learn more at prismahealth.org/ortho.
Ever had that slot cracking windshield turned into a
Hunter asking if the SEC should move the baseball tournament out of Hoover. Wherever you move it, it's going to have issues.
Like for people wanting to go.
You think the Gamecocks are having issues? Look at Clemson finishing under 500 for the first time since 1957.
Hey, Johnson just called up Friday. Did you do the pool? Done. Did you prep the steaks? Already married. Oh, what about the drinks?
Wow, Jay's got the stats. 6-19. What Carolina is in its last 25 SEC tournament games.
They've got more Sauvignon Blancs, Chardonnays, tequilas.
Wow.
Their selection is amazing. Oh, I know. One great selection, helpful guide, ridiculously low prices. Discover new flavors to make this summer even more fun at TotalWine.com. Business owners, how would you like to increase your number of customers by telling thousands of people about your business with no cash out of pocket? Does that sound too good to be true? It's not. Have you heard us talk about our sweet deals? They're just the kind of message that will send more customers to your door. With sweet deals, you get radio ads, plus DJ promos, an on-air interview, and digital and social media elements, all with no cash out of pocket. Contact us today at the Advertise With Us link at 1075thegame.com so we can show you how to sweeten your revenue with our Sweet Deals program for just pennies on the dollar. Restaurants, stores, shops, camps, salons, attractions, entertainment, golf courses, virtually any kind of business can benefit from Sweet Deals. Contact us with the Advertise With Us link at 1075.
Man, Fox Sports might be in a really bad position here.
For Julio?
Yeah, the NFL apparently is not happy at all, and they're going to probably have some sort of payback in terms of their access for games. It could end up in them getting poor matchups. Apparently there's a bunch of agents that said this is why I don't ever allow my players to go on this show to begin with. It's not just a Shannon situation now. It's causing headaches for the whole network at this point.
Yeah, but I'm guessing they're loving any of the publicity.
Not the NFL. The NFL or Fox?
Fox.
Maybe.
FS1 specifically, right?
Unless it means that the actual Fox network gets hurt by it.
Yeah, that ain't going to happen. Let's do the Wes Clark Omaha comment, please.
What is that?
It's 8 seconds. It's the shortest one.
Got it.
At the end of the day, when the season comes to the end and our team's in Omaha, this loss isn't going to matter one bit.
How about that? That's how you talk after you hit one about 420 feet or whatever Wes Clark did yesterday to left field in Hoover, Alabama. Unfortunately for the Gamecocks, that was the third and final run in a 9-3 loss to Alabama. Eliminated, one game and done is what it ended up for Carolina. Now it's about a 9-day break. Some fans texted us in, said it was embarrassing. Bill Gunter, maybe with the best advice this morning. Well, if that's the way you're feeling at the time, just call the old hot take hotline. Feel free to do that anytime, 24 hours a day. That's what it's there for, people. We're here for you. That hot take hotline sponsored by Twin Peaks. And you can just go to our Twitter always if you can't remember the number, and call us at any time, leave a message. Preston was 1996. I was 18 years old still. Freshman year of college, Centenary College, smallest Division I school at the time. It's now Division III school. I'd like to think I had some part of that. Trying to play baseball, fall ball game. I think you get like 2 scrimmages or something. The local LSU Shreveport team was over. I tried to switch hit, right? So I'm hitting left-handed. I pull one, turn over on it. It goes to first base. I thought it might be in between first and second, trying to get out of the box really quickly to beat it out, and then show off my base running prowess, catch the eye of the coaches, earn some playing time. What I end up doing is just falling on my face about 2 steps out of the batter's box. And I will censor. I have to censor myself now. The discourteous first baseman caught the ball, saw that I had fallen down, and just waited a few steps before even touching the base.
Did he make you get up?
I had gotten up, and I was going to run down there, but he was just taking his sweet time going to first and kind of laughing at me. I got back to the dugout. Nobody was saying anything, which made it even worse. So I gave him a bow, and then at least people started laughing. But that's my most embarrassing sports moment on the top of my head. What about you?
That's a solid one. I'm going to take it back to elementary school. I don't know if they still do this anymore. They used to have like the presidential medal of fitness. I don't know if you remember those types of things.
That's all about the how many sit-ups can you do in a certain
all
minute,
of that.
right?
Yeah. And it is great that you said sit-ups, because I was doing the sit-ups and I expelled bodily
gases.
Yes, and I was mortified because and the worst thing is that I should have been like a regular boy and just laughed it off, but I was like, it was the worst possible thing, and it was really, really bad. Only to be topped by having to get our height and weight during those presidential freedom medal thingamajigs. And I just remember my gym teacher. I stepped on the scale, and it was like old school metal scale. And this jerk, he was like, he just had it at, I don't know, let's say 100 pounds. I was like, come on, man, I weigh more than 100. And he would just be like, whoa, and he would just like scoot. And the whole class was like, oh my God. And that was pretty bad. I say it was like second or third grade, but I was bigger than everybody else, so I was still faster than everybody else. So that was my only retort.
Good for you, sir. Patrick, what about you? You want to join embarrassing story time today?
There's like simple embarrassing things. Like I couldn't shoot a free throw when I was playing basketball, so I ended up just shooting granny style because I would just airball free throws all the time. But when I think of embarrassing, like I just think of the anxiety every football practice, because we had it the way we did it. I've talked to kids from South Carolina. They said this did not exist, but we called it being striped, where you had to make weight to play in the certain age bracket. But then if you were if the weight bracket was 145, but if you weighed over 130, then you were striped, which means they put a sticker on you that's literally says like heavy load or wide load, and you're not allowed to touch the football. So you have to play on the line. So I was always making weight, but I was always striped. So I was like the smallest of the big kids, and I would just get run over every day. Like I would square off against a kid that's 15 pounds heavier than me, and it was just miserable every single day. I hated playing on the offensive line in football.
What age was that?
It was until 8th grade, all leading up to high school.
Gotcha. Neil says you
Horrible
definitely
for self-esteem.
He says you definitely get striped in Pee Wee football in the state of South Carolina.
Okay.
That's from Neil. And Caleb might beat us all here. He might have the best embarrassing story. He hits us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. I'm at my new in-laws' house for the holidays. Great start, right? just that right there.
It's already bad.
New in-laws' house for the holidays. I was getting the car unpacked. Had to pee. Nobody was outside. So I started going next to the garage. A few minutes later, my mother-in-law says, "Oh, the garage camera detected motion. Let's check it out." I sat mortified as her face changed while she watched me pee, facing the camera.
Oh, man.
Well done, Caleb. Well done.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's my big takeaway. Like, save the embarrassment for yourself, because we all live enough life where you're going to get embarrassed enough. So embarrassment is not a thing you should project on a team or institution or nothing like that. We've all do plenty good enough getting our own embarrassment.
I hope we avoided, just like trying to say the sentence is embarrassing enough for me. I hope, for the most part, in the show, we avoided embarrassment. I enjoyed it. Preston, thanks for letting me hang out with you guys.
Yes,
Patrick,
sir.
nice job over there. Tim Hill filling in for Pearson Fowler. Don't worry, Pearson will be back next week. We'll see what we can do the rest of the week here. Thanks for listening to The Extra Point on 107.5 The Game. Halftime show coming up next.
WKTFM, Eastover, Columbia. More Gamecocks, more often. 107.5 The Game. Cumulus Station.
All right. Thanks, man. You good?
Let's play the rest of the week.
Sorry, I didn't hear you there. Now I got my microphone on.
So, yeah, we're all good. What's the plan the rest of the week?
Let me end the live.